we see, but whatever.
That was really smart. I'm crazy.
Yes, always. Anyway, well, welcome to another episode of Real Estate Coffee Talk. Cheers, Marissa. I have been what's a nice word for stalking you on Instagram for a while.
Casual obsession.
What's crazy? I found you on my so I connected with you on my real estate account like more than a year ago. And I think it's because you had some kind of content.
I was gonna say, I think you got the ClickUp content calendar
Click up
system.
content calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Click up content calendar. Okay. So that's how I got to you, whatever. And then I started following you here. And you guys are gonna love Marissa. She has such a cool brain, and it's one of those people you follow on Instagram and you feel like you know them. But I won't steal her thunder. So Marissa Pané.
Yeah, but
That's so much nicer than pain. Okay,
Oh yeah.
Marissa Pané. Oh, that's so cool. Tell us just a little bit about you, about your business, and how you got started.
Yeah. Hello everyone. So I'm Marissa. I have been in the marketing and design world for over 10 years now, and I feel really old saying that, even though I'm not that old. But started as a graphic designer, and then kind of with my first business, which was it was a mental health clothing line. Like it was a clothing line that raised mental health awareness. Through that, I self-taught all of the social media marketing, email marketing, fell in love with marketing as a whole, ended up working in corporate in those types of roles, web design, email marketing, all those things. And then during COVID, launched Pané Marketing, which is my essentially one-woman marketing agency. And that is where I specialize in helping service providers use content to grow their business using marketing psychology and behavioral science and all those types of techie, or not tech, but brainy things inside of that. So been in the industry for a while, kind of touched on all the things. And then content marketing is where I just was like, this is my jam. Content's my jam.
This is your jam. Okay, that's what stood out to me about you, right? Because anyone can kind of say they're a marketer, and I think sometimes people think of marketers as like we're more like the artsy type, which obviously you have that. We are a little bit more creatively minded, but marketing is absolutely more of a science than an art.
Yeah.
And you don't see a lot of that. So like, tell us, okay, in marketing psychology, like with that, what made you decide to get interested in it and like lean into it for your business?
Right. So fun fact, when I was in high school, I really, really wanted to go into psychology. Mental health has always been close to my heart, hence my first business, like all that stuff. And I was like, I'm smart enough to go to school for psychology. And so I was like, let's go to graphic design. That seems easy. I'm good at it. So like that was the path. Then at one point or another, before I started this business, I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm smart. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to go into social work.
Oh
That didn't happen. I got the degree in psychology, but instead of social work, I went social media.
Yeah.
And then because I was in the marketing world, I was like, there's so many aspects of psychology that is like marketing is psychology. Like there's no way around that.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I was like, let me use this degree that I now have for no purpose. I'm not going to actually go into social work. And I was like, let me take the things that I learned and fuse it into like the design and the marketing and all that. And so that's kind of how I like fell into it. And then I just I'm a nerd and I read like the scientific journals for fun. I'm like, oh, let's like deep dive into this. And then was like, okay, let's try to figure out how we can apply that to content and everything else, because I'm already doing this. And like, I already knew like psychology of color. And then I'm like, okay, well, if I teach people this, then they can make content easier. And then they'll actually like see the benefits of it.
Right. And okay, so that's what I love about it. And we can nerd out all day.
Yeah.
Well, we were driving up to Virginia a couple weeks ago, and my husband was driving, so I was being and I hate when other people drive. I'm not one of these that like enjoys being a passenger princess. I'm like, I can't sit there.
Like, I need to focus. I need to do something. I can't just sit.
I need to like do something. Anyway, so I was reading what's that book we love? Oh God, I don't have
Nancy Harhut.
Yes, yeah. What's it called?
Using behavioral science in marketing, I believe.
Yes.
It's literally the book I recommend everybody.
Yes. It is like the Bible when it comes to marketing. And I'm sitting there reading, and my husband's just listening to like some NFL game, and I'm like, who's better than who right now, but that's why I love it. And I'm gonna let you go more into this, but I used to manage, so I was a social media manager before real estate and before this marketing gig, whatever. And I managed it was like multiple pages for one company, but one of them had like 10 million fans, one of them had a million, like they were large pages.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when I started to get into psychology, because the person that was my boss was like talking about color psychology and how certain, like, we should be repeating content because they're going to engage. And it's almost why I love marketing psychology and behavioral psychology and all that, is because it gives you the answers to the test.
Exactly.
And then all you have to do is put it out there.
Yeah.
And watch
It's like
it grow.
the hard work is done. You just have to apply it. And then like you also have to see like what I guess frameworks work for your business. Like even though like all the science is there, it's like, okay, this might not resonate for your specific buyer, but like like it is working behind the scenes, whether you know it or not. So you just have to like keep doing it, and then you'll see the results eventually, but you might have to tweak it for this or tweak it for that. But it's like the frameworks and like the instructions are there.
Right. And you can just apply, clearly, like, let's say a lot of the people you work with would be selling like their like done for you services and stuff like that. Right. Whereas
Right.
real estate, it's a little bit more of like a long-term
Mhm.
sale. Right. But so you have to apply like different ways. You're not going to get an instant sale on Instagram,
Yeah.
with real estate. Right. So I guess you just apply different ways. But when I was reading it, I was like, getting all these ideas even for real estate, and I know you're going to touch on some. So okay, so when it comes to like social media content,
Mhm.
in general, but whatever about the real estate industry, because I know you're like all knowing, what are
I
some
actually
of
have
the—
worked with real estate agents in the past, so I have experience there.
oh yes, she knows. Yes, she knows it. I've seen it. She knows the deal. Okay, so when it comes to, but I'm saying I don't want you to have to hone in just on real estate, but whatever you want, just go for it. But what are some of, based on what you know and based on what you see online, right? What are the top like 2 or 3 do's and don'ts when
Okay.
it comes to people's content on social media?
Okay. Well, the number one piece of advice before you even get into like the nitty gritty of what you're doing in your content, the number one thing is consistency and like repetition. Like keep posting the content. Don't think that one post a week, don't think that 2 posts a week is going to be enough to like be top of mind. Like people are moving fast, people are not paying attention. On top of that, like let's say you do post something, there is a very high chance that the algorithm isn't even pushing that out to your followers. So the more you post, the better. And the more you post, the better you'll get better practice too. So like, don't worry about perfection. Don't worry about like, what if somebody saw this the other day? Like, no, they didn't see it. And if they did see it, they didn't consciously recognize it. So
Right.
keep creating content, keep posting, and like that will help like hone your craft as well. That's number one. But number two is show you, be you in your content, like focus on your personal brand. Like, and I know that's hard sometimes to think in real estate because you're like, oh well, I work for this real estate company, like I don't want to like I have to go for this brand and I can't really like, deviate on my own. But no, people are hiring you, the specific realtor. And personal story, when I was buying this house, when I had no idea how to find a realtor or a real estate agent. I was like on Zillow, and then I was like, okay, now what's the next step? And I'm like, real estate agents buy me, like trying to find somebody. And there was a ton of listings, but I didn't see, I don't know what's happening. Every time I tuck my hair behind my ear, I'm like, hold on, we have to fix
It's
this.
the glasses. Glasses always funk me up with that. Yeah.
Always. But yeah, so like I was Googling real estate agents and there was like no one that had a social media presence. And the one person that did was like someone around my age, like it was a millennial type person. And I was like, okay, let me creep. And like there was like a few photos of him. So I was like, okay, I can like, I know who I'm getting myself into. And then it was like all these results that he got for his clients and like sales and everything. So I was like, oh, okay. Like I feel like I can trust this guy because no one else showed their face. And like just like, and that's the only thing that made me pick him over other people is he had a social media presence. He showed his face. That's it.
Yeah, so like built a relationship with him. And also, of course, going back to our favorite book, the social proof of seeing that he had, helped other people buy and sell and gotten good results. And
Yep.
okay, I'm gonna let you go into the don'ts in a second, but I want to just piggyback on this because I'm always telling agents, obviously you've seen my Instagram always
Mhm.
pushing video, but that is why video is so important, right? All these canned content or whatever that helps you stay behind the scenes is like everyone, like any agent can replicate your content, but every agent can't be you. And
Mhm.
people are so afraid to show who they are, afraid, because what I hear a lot is, well, how about like if they don't like the way I sound or they don't like, and I'm like, yeah, that's probably going to happen.
And
Not
that's not your
everybody,
people. Like, you don't need every single human. Like, that's another thing too. It's like a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, my followers aren't that big." It's like, okay, but are the followers that you do have, are those your people? Are those the ones that are want to spend their money with you and use you for business? Because that is what matters. Like, I have
right?
one client that she's like, "My account hasn't really grown that much." I'm like, "Great, but you're getting sales every day and you are like getting referrals from the people you have, and that slow burn is so
Yes.
much more rewarding than like I have 1 million followers. It's like, cool, you got 1 million followers. I guarantee half of those are bots to begin with, or
Oh,
people
right.
that are never going to pay for your services."
Right. And yeah, I have a client too, like a real estate client. Her account has not really grown that much, but she is so. First of all, when you're working a local business like real estate,
Yeah.
unless you're working like Manhattan or one of these
Mhm.
places, you're even in Charlotte. Charlotte's a bigger city, but bigish, but you're still working hyper local like suburbs,
Yep.
whatever. And so she like owns her neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
So like it's so robust how much like she gets engagement. Like whenever we post about someone in the neighborhood, like she had a listing go under contract this weekend. She has all these people jump in like congratulations to the sellers, you know what I mean? Like everyone's so invested.
Yeah.
And to your point, it's like, yeah, how about if people don't like you? That's fine. But how about the people that do like you because they see your video, right? So,
Mhm.
like, I follow a lot of people on social media. Why did I'm sure you are not the only content marketer that I follow, right?
Mhm.
But because you were you, right? Like me and Marissa, we've never met each other in real life. You live way up north, I think.
Yeah, I'm in New York.
Yeah, okay. It's weird how I know stuff about you, right? She went to Puerto Rico last week. I don't no, but like we don't know each other. We have no history outside the internet, right? But because she was her and she put her interests out there, something about that attracted me because we have similarities, right? So the same thing goes for real estate. If you just put yourself out there, people are gonna people are gonna be repelled. Definitely not everyone likes me, not everyone likes my accent, not everyone likes
Yeah,
my
exactly. It's like I F-bomb all the time. Like, if you don't like that, like, sorry, but like that's who I am. I'm not, and like people are always like, "Oh, you should like be more professional." I'm like, you should just go find somebody else that you vibe better with, because like this is who I am, and like I'm very millennial oriented, and like you'll get
yes.
the references or you don't. And if you don't get the references, then like sorry, not for you.
And exactly.
So,
And
like,
that makes the clients that you do work with or the work you do, I've noticed definitely so much easier because
mhm,
by the time they get to you, like, look, again, we have never met in person, but we sat on here chatting for like 10 minutes beforehand because we're like, we feel like we know each other. We have stuff in common. I'm on the outer edge of millennial, the very outer fringe.
yeah.
I'm 41. But I mean, the marketing stuff and the content stuff, like we just have stuff in common. And I would never have known that if she had only been posting like 5 ways to make your content better. And it was just a post with no personal,
Exactly. And
you know.
then like that's like the thing you have to remember too, like with the video content, like that's something that I've been like pushing in my content more is I'm like, do
Yeah.
more B-roll, not stock footage. And like in terms of like realtors, like having more of you being in the homes that you're showing, and like again being like, hey, look, this is what's going on in this neighborhood, or look at all like these like trending places, like look, places to eat or things to
Yeah.
do or things like just giving your personal take on the information, like that is going to set you so much more apart, because one, it's going to drive that social proof of like, oh, look, they actually care about this community. They know about this community. And like, people want to hear from you. Like, it builds your authority of, oh, wow, they know all these things. And like, they're going to help me. Like, I'm not going to just move in and they're going to be like, all right, see you later. Like, if you move in, like, think
Right.
about when you like get an Airbnb or something. And those, like, not hotels, Airbnbs that
Yeah.
have like that like welcome of like, here are some places to stay. Like, you appreciate those more so than if you just show up to an Airbnb and it's blank slate and you're like, hey, where do I
What do I
go?
do now? Yes.
So as
Yeah.
like a realtor, like lean into that in your marketing, and then you are providing all of like you become the go-to person, and they're gonna trust your expertise more. And then when you do make the sale, like they're gonna be like, oh, by the way, like use this realtor. She was great. Like
You know, and it helps also, I think, you actually build a relationship with that person, or as a realtor, I guess it helps them build a relationship with you, because I always use this dating analogy, but if you go out on a date with a person, they're talk about their job, fine, they're a dentist, let's just say. Yeah, it's interesting. And then they talk about it for an hour, 2 hours straight, and then you're like, all right, maybe.
clean teeth.
Yes, exactly. Like, you can't build, if you go on a second day and they sit there talking about dental stuff, you're already over it, right? Because you can't build a relationship with like a person with just one facet to their personality. So
Exactly.
I've sat with agents who I'm like, show the businesses you like. And they're like, well, should I, because I tell them, like, niche down. Hey, if you want to work with like people who are likely to downsize, then don't be showing the best playgrounds in town, because listen, I'm not almost done raising kids, but my oldest is about to go to college. I always joke around, like, my youngest is 6, and I'm like, one thing I will never miss about kids being older is the playground, bouncy houses, all that crap. I will be fine without it. So
Yeah.
if that's where that's really relevant to if you're going to work with young families buying their first home, whatever. But if you're working with a certain group, then be okay just showing that. And that's why it's usually great to work with people who are like in your stage of life, or to niche down, because
Exactly.
you're interested in the same stuff. Okay, so I love this.
Oh,
So
wait, and, one more thing
oh
on
yes,
that with the
go, go.
businesses
Yeah,
is if you can start like building, not even building relationships with the businesses, but like if you keep tagging them and then they share your content to their stories, like you're building more awareness in your area without doing any additional legwork, because everyone loves a shout out. So like think about it, you tag somebody, they're gonna share it. They like vice versa, like you're sharing each other's audiences, and it builds that like repertoire. Like
right.
hello.
The same thing with like collabing. It's much harder to, not harder to do, but it definitely takes a little bit legwork. But I think that's a really underutilized thing, especially by real estate agents. Like,
Yeah,
you
local businesses and real like just as soon as you are location based, tapping into whoever else is in the area, tapping into location based hashtags. Like for me, like I live in the Hudson Valley of New York, so hashtag Hudson Valley NY, hashtag Hudson Valley, hashtag HVNY. Like going deeper into these like hashtags to try to find more people in the community, and then either physically connecting with them and being like, hey, like reach out, like I'm a real estate agent, like I'd love to go like I use your business. I would love to give you more shout outs. Maybe we can do some sort of collaboration or whatever it is. Like you can start it, or you can just passively do it and hope that there's some sort of like reciprocity. That's the word.
yeah, yeah. There we go. We are readers and we are smart. Okay. Or
Another
like,
word.
also, we work like real estate agents, even outside like your local coffee shop and restaurant, stuff like that. We also partner with a plethora of vendors, right? So
Mhm.
like home inspectors and attorneys and all that. And I'm like, been really thinking lately, like, hey, why don't you just jump on with your home inspector and talk about home inspectors see some crazy stuff, right? Like, they have
Oh yeah.
stories for days, right? So jump on with your home inspector. I'm sure that they want to borrow your audience and vice versa. And
Yeah,
it's just,
use your network. Like if you
yeah,
have it, use it.
yes, and it's added value for both of you, and sometimes that takes the fear, like people who are nervous about getting on video, that also kind of takes the fear away when there's
Mhm.
someone else doing it. Okay, so what are some of the don'ts? Like, what are some of the things that you see and you're like, please stop?
Please stop using the very generic Canva templates. Like if you see okay, please just stop using generic. It's
Yes.
just I know it's easy, but like you are so much better than that, and it doesn't take that much work. And it goes back to the do of building a personal brand, like having a consistent brand presence, picking your colors, even if it's your real estate blue or whatever it is, and just using the same fonts, using and make it look professional. Like don't use curly cues and don't use like splatter and like be show up how you want to be perceived. Like you are so smart in what you do. You are so good at what you do. Have an online presence that showcases that. Like don't just be like, here's a free template. It's free. I'm going to use it. Like put a
Yeah.
little more thought behind it. and use, if you're interested in like what me and Sarah love, is like look into the psychology of things. Like I'm sure you share it in your content too. Like
Yeah.
it's there. Like we're giving these tips away. Like steal them.
Yes. And also like use Canva is great. You can easily go in there and pick a brand real fast. One thing you can do in Canva, right, that I did for mine because I'm the overthinker of the world,
Yeah.
is you can in their Canva brand generator, let's say if you don't have colors,
The brand kit.
yes, you can just go and like, let's say you like a picture, that let's say you like a picture of a sunset and you're like, oh God, this is like my vibe. You can upload it there and it pulls out some of the colors and there you go. That's your brand. Stop overthinking about it.
And
Just
then just use the feature that's like when you can like choose your colors in Canva. And then if you go into any of the random templates that are the free templates, click like shuffle on it for in your brand kit, and it will automatically apply your colors, your fonts, and all the things to that template. And then you can use the free template, and it's less like copy paste, copy paste, copy paste.
Yes, and it stands out just like you said. There is, and I don't even know, Marissa. You may know the psychology, but like the terminology, I should say. But there's something in a brand that if remember you have like what less than 2 seconds to grab someone's attention, right? While they scroll. I know for sure Marissa's content. I know her fonts and her, so I know without seeing her face, whatever, that if something scrolls across, I know it's Marissa's, right? And what happens is because I find Marissa's content valuable, it stops me. Your brain, it's just a
Yeah,
psychology.
it's your subconscious. Like you're not paying attention to anything, but if you build a strong enough brand presence, again, I don't know what the specific word is here, but like if you are so consistent that and people are in their mindless doom scrolling, it's going to be like, oh wait, I like this person. Reverse, reverse. Let's see
Yes.
where we are here.
Yes, and you or them they may even be like, oh, let me just share it. I know this is I don't have time, but let me just share it. I'm gonna come back to it in a little while.
Yeah,
Right?
or like a mindless double tap. Like just because they're like, oh, I usually like this content, double tap. They don't even give it a second thought, but like it can't like their brain is like ding ding ding, like you want
Yes,
this.
exactly. It's recognizable. It's just like Coke. Why do you think Coke has had the same logo and colors? Like big brands don't change their.
Literally.
You'll never see Coke posting in red. You don't even. I mean, in red. Of course, they post in red. You don't see Coke posting in blue or even like a different version of red. It's a specific red,
Exactly.
right?
And like the one that I like to think about too is like if someone said name a Red Bull commercial, I'd be like, I don't know. And then I would be like, okay, well think about how Red Bull is like all illustrations. You're like, oh my God, yeah, you're right. Like I've never like every Red Bull
Yes.
commercial is like this weird illustration type
Oh,
of
you're
thing on
right.
TV. So it's
Yeah,
like you don't even know it until someone's like, oh, but do you remember the illustrations? And then you're like, yeah. And
yeah.
then you're like, okay, brand connection there.
Isn't that crazy? That's what I love about branding. Okay. Oh, girl, we could be here all day. Okay. So for agents, so I like if an agent came to you, like, what is one, simple change that you think people can make, specifically real estate agents, but really anyone, in order to make their content stand out?
Okay. So in terms of well, see, trick question. What do we mean stand out? Do we want it to stand out as in like visually or
Yeah, like what's the easiest, most easy to implement way that someone can automatically just kind of make their content better from one day
okay.
to
So
another?
instead of just posting photos of like just random take a photo of the house, like have that first image in your carousel because you should definitely be using carousels when you're showing your homes.
Yeah.
This is just the top of thought, but like you have your branded colors now that we have established. Have a for sale in your font, in your color, like have it on the bottom. So so instead of just seeing a home, it says, oh, for sale, list price, whatever it is. And then if you also want to have like a headshot of yourself or like a little like cutout of yourself in the corner, like something that is more recognizable to you versus it could be anyone's home. Like it could be your friend posting, oh, I updated my house, or oh, it could be any realtor showing this home. Like make it so they know it's your listing or your client or whatever it is, like having those branded elements on the photo.
Right. And that's a good one. And like kind of I've been playing around with some real estate stuff like and not necessarily for like a listing, but I did one where we were talking about market stats from month to month or something like that.
Mhm.
And on the front slide of the carousel, it was just their brand color, and the words were something like "you wouldn't," or no, it was like $171,000. And it was basically like how much people have gained in equity in the last 5 years. But the thing is, a reader seeing that, they notice the brand colors, but then if you see someone says 170,000, your I mean, your fingers like, I just have to swipe. Like
You need the hook. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. So hooks too, like if we're talking captions and first slide, second slide. So that's the other like fun thing about carousels is you get two chances. So if they don't engage in the first time they see the Instagram post, Instagram will automatically show them the second slide. So using those first two to either be like the attention grabbers and like the emotion drivers and trying to just like pique their curiosity, that is your best get. Like that is your thing. So like if you want to share facts or if you want to share like insights, don't just be like fact drop, like have
yeah,
some context around it. Be like add humor, add emotion, like add things to it to like grab the attention.
right. And speaking of the emotion, I know when we were talking before, when you did the questionnaire, we talked about, you mentioned specifically like agents can, instead of doing the just listed, just sold type of things, they can turn those things into a story.
Yeah.
So tell us more about like kind of what you mean by that.
Okay. So I feel like a lot of people, specifically real estate agents, they underutilize their stories. They just share their posts, their stories, and like roll with it.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Talk to your people face to camera, like what you're doing right now. Like just hold it like you're taking a selfie and talk to the camera and be like, hey, we have this new listing, and like actually talk about it. Like people want to hear your voice. It makes like we were talking earlier, that connection, it builds.
Yeah.
One, we want that connection. Two, we want people to start being familiar with how you communicate and everything else, because that is who they are going to be communicating with on the back end.
Right.
And it gives a direct line for people to just reply to your story. And then you can start the conversation in the DM. So like if you say something and people have questions, it's a whole lot easier to feel like you're talking to someone one-on-one and answering back to that versus seeing a post, dropping a comment, not knowing if they're actually going to respond to the comment, or maybe I don't want to do this publicly. I'm not going to go from your post to the DMs. Like there's just so many
Right.
extra steps.
Yeah.
Where if you are face to face on your camera and people are responding to that, or even if they just do like a haha emoji, like when you can do those like simple things,
Yeah.
that is opening the doors for you, the real estate agent, to be like, oh, were you looking for a house in this area, or whatever it is that the topic was on.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's so powerful and so simple. And I know, like, I don't know how you felt, Marissa. I mean, you're on the younger side of things where you kind of grew up with social media, but um, I've even met young people who freak out about getting on video.
Oh
And
yeah.
you do such a good job. One thing I want to do better this year is get on stories more. I don't get on my stories that much. So I mean, that's like an easy way to get on video without you having to edit the reel, and because people get hung up.
Exactly.
So this wasn't on our little sheet, but just off the cuff, well, A, I would say, did you have any trouble getting on stories at first? And like, how did you get over that? And then
100%.
B, and then B, like, what do you think is the difference as far as the power of stories versus like your traditional posts and reels and all that?
Right. So one, yes, 100%. I am introvert. You would never know that because like on the internet, I'm like,
You know?
there's a screen there, there's a shield. In real life, I'm like, hermit, let's be a hermit. So yes, definitely was a little awkward at first. And then I was like, you know what? The biggest barrier for me, I was like, I have 24 hours. That's it. That's all that story's up for. If I look like a complete goober or if I say something wrong, like it's fine. It's going in 24 hours. And honestly, I could delete it if I really wanted to.
Yeah.
Like just trying to remove that pressure and knowing that like one, no, not everyone's gonna see it. Two, I can stumble over my words and I can re-record it if I really wanted to. Like just taking the pressure off yourself and just having fun with it and being like, this is a tool, a free tool I can use to grow my business.
Right.
Why am I not taking full advantage of all the things? And the other thing to remember with that too is some people pop onto Instagram or like social media in general and they're consuming content differently. Like some people only consume stories. Like they log on, tap through some stories, and then they leave the app. Some people come on, scroll through a few feed posts, leave the app. Some people do it with reels. Like
Right.
You have to remember that you're not going to hit on every aspect of your audience. So like getting over the fear of a new content format is going to help you reach more people to begin with. And then I just obviously go on tangent, so I forgot what the second part of your question was.
So did I. So we're fine. Oh well, I guess you kind of spoke to it. I mean, I was just wondering, like, what have you seen the power of that be of those stories be in comparison to, like, do you notice you have better engagement, or is it just different engagement when you're on stories?
Yes, people engage with my stories so much more. One, it's where they first engage with my content. Like I will have people responding to my stories. Sometimes it'll just be those little emoji taps. And
Right.
as time progresses, then I'll see them actually replying to the stories. And then I'll see them actually leaving comments on my posts. And it's funny because you can see like because like this account's been active for, when did I start? This was 2020. Like I saw, and like my other account got hacked. So I like had to start a new account, and you see
Okay.
the progression of the people that come over and like the way that they interact with you, and it just keeps getting deeper and deeper, and then they eventually become either clients or they buy your products or whatever it is. So it's funny that you can see like the way that it progresses, and some people never become clients. Sometimes they just like have that connection with you and their industry peers, but it gives them an opportunity to talk with you, and you can see what type of content they interact with, and then you can start creating more of the content that people are interacting with.
Right. It's a good, like, that's the other thing I love about social media is it's almost like a good experiment all the time, right? Like,
And it is literally like it is real-time experimentation. Like you can put up a poll and A/B test some subject lines or A/B test anything. And for those that don't know, A/B testing is like giving two of the same type of option and seeing which one your audience gravitates more to. Like instead of saying like for sale, maybe they want to say like now available or whatever it is. Like you can test
right.
out like silly little different like mechanisms and see which one resonates more, which ones get more link clicks. Like if you say, that's one of my favorite ones from like the Nancy Harhope book. It's like people don't like to think, so they don't want to learn more about a listing. They want to discover more because it taps into that like quest for
Yeah.
novelty and like seeking out new things. So
Right.
just like little verbiage changes, and then the way that you talk to your audience. If you are on stories, use you because you want to talk to you and make people think to it. It's never a we. It's only a we once you're working together as a client, but talking to people, it's a you.
That's so powerful. That was actually one of my favorite parts of that book that always kind of, I try to, sometimes I get caught up. I'm like, what's up, guys? But I listen to this podcast where every time she's talking, it's literally like as if I'm sitting at coffee with her and she's just like, are you going to do this thing? You've been listening to my podcast for 2 years. Are you finally gonna do? And like, if you can find a way to talk to your, specifically because real estate is a person to person industry, right? Like with your content, you're going to be working with people. A lot of it is digital.
Mhm.
You're going to be able to keep in that hermit mode if you want. But I'm like, what are you guys scared of? You want to get out into the street with these people, show house anyway, right?
Exactly. Like you are a people person. If you're doing real estate, you are a people person. So show that personality and like showcase who you are. So
Yeah.
people like that is like the number one tip, like that everything always comes back to in your content is be who you are. Like don't put on this like weird little front on the internet that isn't who you are in real life, because if there's a disconnect between what you show up as in real life versus on the internet, then people are going to be like, I don't want to do business with this person. Like you do business with people you trust. And
Right.
to build trust, you have to build those connections. And if those connections are, one, if they're fake, like obviously red flag. But two, if you can't build that connection with them on the internet, then like you're not going to have a chance to build those connections in real life.
Right. And look, like, I mean, I've said it before, let's say it again, but like, look how easy, right? Just the conversation is with me and Marissa, who don't know, we've never talked outside of Instagram, right? Writing, right? So look how easy it is. So when you show your personality and two people are attracted to, or have similar interests and all that stuff, then when you get off social media and go to do your business, like all the closings and clients I got from social media were the easiest because they liked me because my little niche was like New Yorkers that were living here in Charlotte or that were moving here.
Mhm.
And that's because when I was moving here, I grew up in New York City. When I was moving here, I literally searched on agent that was from New York because the city is so much different than anything here, that I wanted to tell her, okay, I want a neighborhood that's like Forest Hills. But
Yeah.
how does that translate here, right? Or like, I'm not going to trust a Southerner to tell me where the like pizza is, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly. It's like there's pizza and bread. We have very distinct journeys.
please, please don't. My husband's from LA and he's always like, oh, like he thinks like Pizza Hut is pizza. And I'm like, okay. And then he'll be like, that place says New York style pizza. And I'm like, they lie.
Yeah.
Any place that says New York style pizza, they're lying. So, but yeah, that's another reason why not only does it kind of bring you your perfect client, but then once you get offline with them, it's like such an enjoyable experience because you have stuff in common and it
Exactly.
becomes fun. Okay. So I love this. Okay. Now, one last question about this, and then I really have very cool stuff I want to talk about. But what's your top tip? And we went into this a little bit, but like, what's your top tip? So let's say if an agent has they just have a listing, right? And I think we get into the habit of being like, just listed 5 bedroom, 4 bath, 500,000. Like, what's an easy kind of like tip or mental template that they can use to, instead of doing that, that they can tell a story?
Okay. So with that, you could be like, imagine you are like that imagine framework works wonders because people can start picturing and being like, imagine you are in a, what was it, like 5 bedrooms. So you're a new family, just got married, you know you're gonna have kids in the next couple of
Yeah,
years, you want to upgrade to your home, like envision this scenario and like talk like you should know who is buying what types of homes and like that
yeah,
stereotypical things. And if
yeah,
you know that certain like if you've had a bunch of sales recently and they are all saying the same type of words, steal their words. Like listen to your audience, do that customer research. And I know that's probably not something real estate agents think about is the marketing behind it and like the market research of your market. But like think of the way that they talk and steal that and use that in the way that you talk to them. So,
right.
like recycle their words. And then from there, again, you can either do this in a reel, like, hey, guess what? This is for sale. If you are looking for blah, 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 and like talk features, not benefits. Or no, talk benefits, not features.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Um,
get it.
yeah. And so instead of saying like the 5 bedroom house, being like a house that is able to accompany large dinner parties, whatever it is, like think
Yeah,
about the things that the people are thinking about versus rooms, toilets, and all that stuff. Like people
right.
want to experience more than they want things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because it's just like a measurement. And of course, like we have to like pay attention to fair housing things. So we can't be like, this is perfect for a young family. But what you can do, right? Like if something is like 5 bedrooms, 4 baths, has like a clubhouse with amenities, whatever, you could just say, like, imagine your weekend spent at this community pool and how much fun. And then you come home and like,
Exactly.
all it, just what Marissa said is like allow the viewer to like picture themselves in there. Like we may not be able to speak to, obviously you never want to talk about race, religion, or all that stuff. But
Yeah.
of course, we may not be able to say anything about. But typically, if someone's buying a 5 bedroom, 4 bath house, they're typically going to have a couple of kids, whatever. So you don't say young families, but you can just imagine holiday dinners are in this dining room, and look, you can have this fire going, this hearth fireplace or whatever. Like just like she said, like tell about the feature. I mean, about the benefits instead of 5 bedrooms, 4 baths doesn't tell
Yeah,
us.
like I said, like think experience. Like as soon as you can, like if you can envision something there, your client might not be able to like picture it the same way. But so if you talk to it and you talk to that point, then people that are just like scrolling through and they're like, I don't know if this is right for me, but you just gave them a situation that they've been dreaming about. They're gonna be like, yes, that is exactly what I need. Let me go see it. And then the other thing is, I talked on it before, but with the different content formats, like you can tell this story in different ways. Like you can, especially with AI now, like you can kind of like create this in like depending on how deep you want to go into it, but like you can use like the AI tools to create these situations and like create these images inside of the listing photos. You can like show up on reels as face to cam. You can kind of like pan the room and talk to it, to that video. Like there are so many different options versus just image sale.
Interested. I know. Yes. And I mean, it's so crazy. Another piece that I would add on to that too, that I think is underutilized, but it becomes part of the story, right? Is it's so funny. Real estate agents all know location, location, location,
Mhm.
but we never talk about location. We always talk about like, here's this house at 123 Main Street as
Right
if it's
here.
like an island, right? And like, no, that's a small part of the house. Like, it's funny, like, we want to move out of state in a couple of years, and we're always talking about like what we would want, right? Because what we want changes over time. And now I'm like, I don't care. I personally prefer smaller houses, but I want to live in I want to go back to like a walkable area,
Yeah.
right? So I'm always looking at like walkable neighborhoods in Fort Lauderdale, or like
You're like, where can I like escape to without like having to like, get in a car, get in a highway, and do all these
exactly.
things?
I want to know I can walk to like a coffee shop, or I could walk to like a couple little things, and I don't have to get in my car for everything, right?
Yeah.
Or I have so many people who'll be like, well, and listen, I get it. This is very basic sounding, but I'm always like, whenever, if I were ever going to buy a house like in a different state I wasn't familiar with, I'm like, how close is the nearest Target and Starbucks? Because I know that if there's a Target and Starbucks within like, a 5-minute drive, then there's probably a lot of other stuff, right? And I personally want that. So tell a story about the area. I think that could really set you apart if you take a little walk. Like, here's what the block looks like. Hey, it's 2 minutes to the nearest. You can walk to the school if you have kids in the school. You can walk to the diner. Like,
Yeah.
about
That
the
is actually a brilliant, like if your listings have like a walkable thing, do like the hyper speed or the hyperlapse thing and literally record yourself walking from Dunkin' or from Starbucks to
yeah,
the house and like show that walk and be like, look, it's that simple to get your morning coffee in the morning, or this could be your morning run, and like do a hyperlapse around like the block or whatever it is. Like showing it in real time, one, it keeps people engaged because they're like, ooh, what's around that corner? Ooh, what's this? Like they will
right.
watch that content, and two, it will make them feel like they're there. So they'll be like, it's just so much more easier to envision versus, yeah, sure, it's 2 miles away. Like 2 miles to me means absolutely nothing.
Right.
I don't have to put the speedometer in my head.
And what kind of miles are we talking about? Because for me, if you're talking to me about like city streets or like actual blocks, I could walk 2 miles with my eyes closed. If you're
Exactly.
talking, I'm a walk in like country area,
Yeah,
you're
you're like, oh man, I don't really need to go past that farm and that really sketchy house on the corner.
yes,
I'm not gonna do that.
it's not happening, girl. If you tell me to get on a trip, like no, it's not happening.
Yep.
So that is a big missing piece, and I think it really changed. Also, like when you're in a if you happen to be in a location that has a big relocation population, so again, putting yourself in the mind of the consumer, but the place that we want to go to, I'm always watching videos of like what the neighborhoods look like, what, because you don't know what you don't know, and you want to get someone's idea of like, hey, this is like the vibe of even in the city of Charlotte, right? There's South End that's way more like young professional type. Then there's an area like Dilworth that's more like old money, I'm like, just showing the vibes of the neighborhoods for relo buyers helps you kind of build trust with them before they even get there, right?
Exactly.
And so, okay. Guys, okay. Marissa is a freaking genius. Well, I'm a just because I know you want to know right now before we get into the next quick question, but follow her on Instagram at Pané Marketing, just PANE dot
Dot marketing.
marketing.
Yeah.
You don't have to do the accent over the E, but always say Pané because it sounds
It's
better.
all right. When I was growing up, I was on a national competitive baton twirling team, very random. But when we went to nationals, they were like, bring the on top of your name. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? They're like, bring the pain. I'm like, I have been twirling with you guys for how many years, and you still don't know my last name? They're like, yeah, we know, but no one else knows.
Nobody else.
It's like, it's fair.
That's good. Oh, that would have been a good hook for if your name is actually Payne. But Marissa Pané is so bougie. I love it. Okay.
Thank you.
So okay, let's get to the important stuff. Please tell us about your three-legged dog.
That is Benson. He is the best little potato in the world. He's a rescue kitty. We don't actually know how he lost his leg. chances are he got hit by a car because he likes to dart into oncoming traffic. As soon as he sees a car, he's like, yes. And I'm like, you would think you would learn.
He hasn't learned.
Yeah, no, he is a mush. I locked him out. I'm sorry if you guys heard him barking.
Oh,
Did you hear him at all or no?
yeah, a tiny bit, but it doesn't bother me. I have a Yorkie. He still has all his legs, but he probably has 3 teeth left, and he's like 15, and we're always like, how long do Yorkies like? He's seriously at the age where he used to try to dart out when we went places. Now he's just like, I'll be over here on the pillow bed thing.
Yeah,
Like,
Benson has all the energy still. So he sees something like, and I live in a condo, so it's like as soon as somebody walks by, it's all over.
Oh yeah, just mad. That's how he used to be. I mean, every day when I used to take my kids to school, like as soon as the door cracked, he used to dart out. Then we'd spend half an hour finding him. Now he's not even trying to get out. Or like we'll let him on the backyard and he'll like pee in like the closest little section of grass and he'll just walk back up. He's like, mm-mm. But he's so he's so quiet. He's always been like a pretty chill dog, but now whenever he's sleeping too long, we're like, is he alive?
Are we breathing? Can I?
Go poke him. I'm like, oh, Snickers. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you are such a freaking genius, and I hope you all follow her. And she does have services. She can work with you. She can help you with your content. She can do a ton of stuff. So go and find her if you need help. But what will Marissa be doing 10 years from now?
That is always like my like demise of a question because I'm the type of person that I'm like, I love to plan things, but like I can't think that far ahead. Like it doesn't work for me. So in terms of life, probably still in New York somewhere, hopefully somewhere with a large fenced-in yard so Benson has room to play. Oh my god, 10 years. Will he be alive in 10 years?
Yes, he will.
Oh my god. Either way, still large fenced-in yard for dogs to run around and play in. And then business-wise, like my big goal for like this brand is like I love teaching. So like I would love to turn this into some sort of like I have my membership now, which I teach service providers how to basically DIY their own content, but like turning this into more of a educational platform of teaching how to integrate the marketing psychology and all that stuff into your content and like to DIY it and not make it this big, hairy, scary, like, oh my God, behavioral science. That sounds terrifying. How do I do that? Like making it so small business owners can like learn these things and integrate it and not have it be this big, hairy, scary thing.
Right. And it's so genius. And I'm telling you, if you follow Marissa and just take some of her advice, join her membership, whatever, like the tips are so actionable, but that you will see results. And it's exciting. Like to me, it's exciting. Like one of the things behavioral science based, right, is like, I forgot, of course, I don't remember any of the terminology, but she was talking about something like with repetition, right? And I think with content, we're always like, oh God, if I talked about this last month, well, I don't want to talk about it again. And when I tell people, no, you should be repeating the same things over and over, it's like it unlocks this whole thing. I'm like, no, you don't need 365 ideas, right? Just have like 5 to 10 and keep talking about them, right?
Yeah.
And
with those ideas too, like think about like if you are talking about like a section, like say you're talking about a town, like I'm thinking in real estate, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about this specific town. In this specific town, these are 5 restaurants. Okay, so instead of talking about 5 restaurants, you could say these are 5 date night ideas. Here are 5 take your kids out to dinner ideas, and then like touch on it. And then you can have other posts that are individually going into in each of these like places or whatever it is. Like you can keep breaking it down.
And then you get known for that because people are like, oh, well, what top 5 is she covering this month? Like, I want to know, I want to see these highlights or whatever. So yeah, so it actually becomes easy and it becomes exciting because I think that's where agents fall apart is they put these things out like, 3 home updates for your fall about like cleaning your HVAC. Like nobody wants to know about cleaning their HVAC until their HVAC is like on fire. Like nobody wants to. Exactly. So, and then they get destroyed and they're like, nobody cares. But it's just finding what people want to hear about and talking about it, and it will be exciting for you. So follow Marissa. Okay. Again, follow her at Pané, P-A-N-E .marketing. Okay. Rapid fire. I know the answer to this already, but coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Of
Easy.
course. Oh my God.
Easy. I will only drink tea if I'm deathly ill and I'm like, I need the vitamins or whatever is goodness in tea.
Yes, I know. That's me. When I'm sick, I'm like tea time. Any other day? No, thank you. Okay. Netflix or podcasts?
Probably podcast. I'm not a big TV person, but I could go for a good binge on Netflix occasionally.
Yeah, once in a while. But if it's available on podcasts, I'm probably listening on podcasts.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Okay. And then winter, or you're like a nature hiker girl, and I'll never. My husband had tried so hard to get me into it, but I just cannot. Okay. So but winter or summer?
Summer all day. I am dying in this cold. New York cold is not fun.
I know. How long does your winter last up that way? Because that's
So
different
I'm like
than
2 hours north of New York City, so
oh, okay.
it's not that north
Yeah.
that, but yeah, no, it's probably it's so to give you a good timeline is I refused to join the gym. November 1st, I joined the gym because on October 31st, I went for a run and I was like, I can't breathe. So let's say like November to like
My
February.
gosh, yes. My friend was up in New Jersey last weekend and he lives here now, but we grew up in New York. And I'm like, what are you doing in New Jersey in January? Like that's
The
no.
worst time you could visit.
Yes, I'm not going up there. And he was like, oh my gosh, I haven't been able to feel my feet in 3 days.
Oh yeah, no. We went to Puerto Rico for my friend's 30th like 2 weeks ago, and then I'm going to Disney in like two more weeks. I'm like, yes, all of this heat, I need it.
Oh my gosh, Disney's my favorite place in the world. Please have so much fun for me.
Oh my god. I haven't been since I was in first grade. I don't remember anything, so I'm very excited for Disney.
Oh my God, please post a lot of pictures.
Oh, I will. Don't you worry.
I'm obsessed. We go probably like 3 or 4 times a year. I'm
Yeah,
obsessed.
no, I'm like, if we're going to celebrate, my boyfriend just finished his MBA, and he's like, oh yeah, we're gonna go celebrate that. I was like,
Yes. And it's the best time of year because it's warm, but it's not like blazing. It's gonna be
yeah,
especially if you live in New York. So all right. Well, thank you so much. This was so amazing.
thank
So
you for having me. This was super fun.
yes, of course, go follow Marissa, join her membership, get whatever you can from there to invest in your business and grow it. So, all right, Marissa, thank you so much. I'll
Of course.
see
Thank you for having
you
me.
soon. See you on the gram. Bye.
Bye.